Hi, my name is Jake Muehlstein. Myself and Gobert Carreño will be discussing the design pattern object pools, and we have some cool things to talk about and how we can implement it and apply it to our current project, the Grad Planner.
Object pools, otherwise known as resource pools, are used to manage the object caching. A client with access to an object pool can avoid creating a new object by simply asking the pool for one that has already been instantiated instead. Generally, the pool will be a growing pool. For example, the pool itself will create new objects if the pool is completely empty. Or we can have a pool which restricts the number of objects created. Object pooling can offer a significant performance boost. It is most effective in situations where the cost of initializing a class instance is high, the rate of instantiation of a class is high, and the number of instantiations in use at any one time is low. Object pool pattern is similar to an office warehouse. When a new employee is hired, office manager has to prepare a workspace for him. She figures whether or not there is a spare equipment in the office warehouse. If so, she uses it. If not, she places an order to purchase new equipment from a store. If a case an employee is fired or simply leaves the company, his equipment is moved to the warehouse, where it could be taken when a new workplace will be needed, when an employee is hired. So, to implement it, we will need to have a singleton. A singleton is a method that is called several times from several other classes. In this case, we have a connection class with a connection method to a database. This class is instantiated each time information from the database is needed. The connection class then is extended from the pool that will manage all the available instances to the database connection. Finally, we have our client class when the connection to the database is needed.
So in talking about the object pool design pattern, there are actually quite a lot of upsides to being able to use it. So one upside is the object pool pattern helps increases the overall performance of the application. Part of that is due to the fact that the application won't have to instantiate multiple objects, that they can pull from a pool of already instantiated objects, which will really help. Also, object pool patterns help achieve high initialization speed of new objects in some situations, so there's a performance increase there. And also, the object pool pattern helps manage connections and provides a way to reuse and share them. So again, that will help if we have multiple users trying to access one database or one REST API, which we might be using or what we would be using in our Grad Planner project. Also, the object pool pattern helps limit the maximum number of objects that can be created, and that will help any maybe a system overloading that could be created if we have a lot of users trying to use the REST API or that connection. In contrast, there are a couple of downsides for object pools. So the first one is the return of the object back to the pool is completely dependent on the client. So if the client forgets to return the object back to the pool, then the other components can't use them when the object is needed. And so it's like checking out a library book, never returning it. And so another person that wants to use that library book goes to the library, can't find it because it was never returned, and so that can't be used. So also we have another downside is the retainment of multiple objects in the pool for a long time without destroying them will more or less consume system resources. So we have in this situation, it could just we could have stale objects in there that we actually don't need or not using anymore. And without actually destroying them, it will just continue to hog system resources, and it will, yeah, it will be very inefficient. So in conclusion, although the object pool is handling the object instantiation, its main purpose is to provide a way for clients to reuse the object, like their new objects without being shared and reused. And how we might apply this design pattern to our project that we are working on, the Grad Planner, We are currently using a REST API to go ahead and access the stored information. And so obviously, if we open up too many connections, that might affect the performance, and there's several reasons for that. So the first one is creating a connection is an expensive operation, a tax on the resources of the computer or the server. And when there are too many connections open, it takes longer to create a new one, and the REST API server will become overloaded, again, taxing on the resources with too many connections. So here the object pool comes into picture to manage those connections and provides a way to reuse them and share them. Another great thing about this is it can also limit the maximum number of objects that can be created. So this is going to limit the amount of concurrent users accessing the REST API. Why this is so important is you make sure that the server resources aren't being taxed more than they can handle. And so this will provide a good user experience to make sure that whenever they are accessing the REST API or the information for the grad planner, that they will have a good connection, and that will in turn cause them to have a good experience when using this program. So how this would work is there would be a connection object that's instantiated by the client, and then there will be connection implementation object which implements the database operation or the operation for the REST API. And then there would be a connection pool which is managing those connection objects to the database. So underneath the hood, just need to make sure that if there is available more connection objects are allowed to be created, then the connection pool will manage that so that they can create more connection objects if that's allowed. And also it will manage the ones that have been checked in that were already created so that they can be used by other people trying to access the REST API. Just need to make sure that the connections are returned to the connection pool so that they can be distributed again. So that is the design pattern for object pool, and this has been our presentation. Thanks.